Metropolitan Church. My name is Rosemary Anthony, and today I come to you sharing information on a topic that touches the majority of us. Have you ever met someone involved in a domestic violence situation? Have you yourself ever experienced emotional, financial, mental, sexual abuse from a partner? Well, we're stopping to highlight this month. This month is Domestic Violence Awareness. And being aware just simply means that you know. You have the knowledge to know that 1 in 3 women are involved in physically abusive relationships. Do you also know that 1 in 4 men, 1 in every 4th man is also involved in domestic violence situations? As we learn this month, as we research and understand what domestic violence means in our community, we have information from a dear sister right here in our community who experienced a domestic violence situation. Sister Pat Tatum is willing to share her story so we can have an insight of how to look for signs, how to help, but more importantly, how to support and turn a domestic violence situation around for the better. First Metropolitan Church, we have a call. We have a charge as well as a challenge to do our part to support those individuals who are experiencing domestic violence situations. I'd like to introduce you to a survivor, one whom I respect and have grown to love, Sister Pat Tatum, who is a survivor.
I am a survivor. The guy that I dated in my 20s was an abusive guy. But when the relationship first started, he was a good guy. We talked, we partied together, we just had fun with one another. But the day that we started cohabitating is when things began to change. Not only was he charming, he was also a cheater. Then he would have different women come into our house and stuff. But then when I started to speak my mind against that, that's when he became abusive. He would hit me just for simply saying, why are you doing that? Why you stay out late? He would stay out late, but I couldn't go anywhere. So he limited me to when and where I can go, even if it was on to my own mother's house. But then things got worse. You didn't know whether to say good morning or good night without getting hit. And I can see the change in him. He just was mean.
And once you saw those changes, Sister Pat, thank you for your honesty. Tell us about your feelings. As a woman, I can imagine what you were going through and experiencing down on the inside of your person. Talk to us about that.
I was always a quiet person, but I began to feel so timid that it was hard to just even be at home and feel safe. I had my child with me and I just didn't know what to do. He would just walk in and I would just clam up because it made I was felt vulnerable to him. I didn't know how to defend myself against him. But the love, I thought I loved him, but it wasn't love, it was more fear. And I just prayed and asked, God, how do I get out of this? And I told God, if you are who you are and you said you can do anything, I'm asking you to save me. Get me out of this relationship. And before I knew it, he was in jail because not only was he an abuser, he abused drugs. So that played a big part in it. He would steal from me. I never know if the rent was going to be paid, but we managed on that side. And then things was just bad. The fighting every night, the hitting on me. And the day I decided to stand up to him was the day he got really rough with me also. So it seemed like the more I fought him to not fight me,
It became worse.
it came worse.
It became worse, yes, ma'am. And speaking of help, And getting out of that, I heard you say you prayed.
Oh,
You
yes,
stopped
Lord.
for a moment to ask God to use his divine intervention
Yes, I
to
did. provide a way of escape for you. Because even though I was going through the turmoil, I really didn't know who God was. And my thinking was, God, if you're real, I need you to step in and save me from this relationship. Make a way of escape for me. And he did just that. Within months, I guess it was, this man got locked up for years. And that was the way that I was able to get out of it.
That's fantastic, Sister Pat. And God has a way of working through our community and our neighborhoods. I'd like to take a moment to share some information with our audience,
Yes.
with those men and women who may be going through something very similar, or a family member or a friend. The National Domestic Violence Hotline is 1-800-799-7233. This is a way a man or woman can reach out and get some help. Sister Pat, can you tell us about the opportunity to text to get help in case I can't make a phone call?
Yes, you can text START to 88788 and receive help that way.
Tell us now about your connections or lack of connections with your family support. We know moms and sisters and uncles and aunts, they love on us real well, but in the moment, talk about how that help either moved you forward or pushed you back.
Yes, that can be like a tug of war because your family want to have your back,
Of course.
but then you already know what this person is capable of doing to you. So for my advice is, when family step in, you have to explain to them what is really going on. You have to be upfront, and then it would be best to make sure that you are getting out of the relationship. Because once you start going back and forward, it only makes it worse.
And as a family member who wants the love and support, I may be observing you changing or not coming around to the family events or not answering your phone the way you used to before you were in this relationship. What can I do as a family member to offer support for someone I think may be in a domestic violent situation?
Listen with no judgment.
Yes, ma'am.
Understand, because you if you haven't been in the situation, you don't know the extent of the fear that be within that person. Because I would used to fight with my brother. My logic was, well, my brother's really not going to hurt me, but I know what this man was capable of, and I know if I stood with him to go toe to toe, I don't know who was coming out.
That makes a lot of sense.
Or how I was coming out. So it's like you just sit there and you have to watch what you say, watch what you do, and that's no way to live. If you can't come home and just be free about, hey, what's going on?
Glad you're back.
Without getting popped, then what are you going to do? So the best thing to do is to dig deep inside yourself and know this is not how I want to live.
Yes.
And start from there to try and find changes. And that starts with your family too. So they can help you make the change. But because you're not in it alone. And while you're going through, there's others going through the same, identical, or even worse changes. And just get help and get out.
And I heard you give good advice, Sister Pat. You reminded me that I cannot judge.
Yes.
I'd like to package that right there.
No.
I've got to make sure that I don't bring my biases or my experience to how I'm supporting my loved one or my family member.
Yes, because you're already being belittled by that person. So if you come in and say, well, girl, why you being stupid? Why are you letting him hit on you? That's not going to make me feel better. They're going to be like, well, I'm going back to my corner and keep my mouth closed.
And that's not where we want to
And
be.
that's not what we want to do.
That's right. Because there's a way to love There's a way to have an open, safe place.
Them fruit of the spirit. Get that love, joy, and peace. And be with somebody. When they use their hands, they're giving you a hug, a high five, or a handshake.
That's good. Sister Pat, there are oftentimes situations where a family member or a loved one will reach out to support someone going through domestic violence, and there'll be a pushback or, no, I'm not ready for that help yet. Tell us a little bit about your thoughts. How constant, how persistent should that help be? If I invite you over at Thanksgiving dinner and you don't come, then I invite you again at Christmas dinner, do I continue to reach out as a family member, or do I ease back? How does that look in your situation with domestic violence?
I would say continue to stay in that person's circle.
Okay.
And be involved. Always invite them to the family function or ask them, do they want to go, someplace. But never give up, because your time is not their time.
Okay.
You have to be there when they're ready. Keep an open mind, an open heart, and open hands. Because once that person, because it's a step to getting out. You just can't say, bye, I'm leaving.
Process.
It's a process. That person first have to build up their confidence and know that they're ready. It's just like a drug addict.
Ooh, good example.
It's just like you don't give drug addicts money, but you just have to wait. When they come to you and say, I'm ready, you have to be ready. Never turn your back. Don't start and then stop.
So commit to it.
So you got to commit to it. I'm going to be here until she needs me.
That's good.
And keep that business within yourself. Don't put it out to nobody. Because once they lose trust in you, then they go deeper.
Yes.
Into what they're already in.
And it's hard to regain that trust.
And yes,
very
it is
hard.
So you just keep that open mind. Keep whatever conversation is between the two of you.
Yes.
And just let her know when you're ready, I'm ready.
I'll be here.
I'm here for you.
That's good. So the consistency, keeping an open door, whenever you're ready to come talk, whenever you're ready to come to the family event, invite the individual to church. Church can be a safe place.
Church can be a safe place.
Come meet me on the Beltway.
But you know what?
Yes, ma'am.
Even with just say, hey, I'm going to go to church Sunday. It could be a no, you're not. You're not going anywhere. Because whenever they feel that you're going to get around somebody that can talk you away,
that could be a problem.
That's where they try to keep you from.
I'm glad you brought that out. Because domestic violence can show its face in any way, whether you need to go to the grocery store or to the church to get that help. That could be, don't go, I need you to stay here.
Yeah.
Very tricky. Yes, that is very insightful. From someone who's never experienced it, that just blew my mind right there, because your day-to-day could be changed.
Yep.
You can't go to work. You can't go to church. I don't want you to move and do the...
And when you go to work, you're coming straight home. Ain't no stopping in between.
No stopping at 7-Eleven, no stopping at the CVS.
So we know we still need the money. So yeah, go to work.
And then
come home. You get off at 5, I see you at 5:30, not 5:35.
That's what domestic violence could look like. And you mentioned earlier, emotional, sexual, financial. All that abuse could be the control.
Yeah, that's the whole thing in a nutshell, that control.
So the abuser feels like, I got you on a tight schedule. I know you're off at 5, you're opening the door at 5:30. Controlling that schedule, and then the family thing, who's interacting, who's calling you, who are you interacting with?
Yeah, that's right.
Sister Pat, that's real. And as we know, statistics show it could be a man and or a woman. Either one. Before we close out today's interview, Sister Pat, I'd like to share some information, some statistics. This is an alarming incident that is happening throughout our country. We know that 1 in 3 women are physically abused, as well as 1 in every 4th man. This is not a gender neutral issue where it's a woman only. This is a man and woman issue. That's the level for moderate abuse. But then when we think about severe abuse, what are those numbers, Sister Pat?
Yes, it's 1 in 5 in women and 1 in 7 in men. And the domestic violence, it takes on in many forms. It can be physical, where they're hitting, pushing, choking you, or it can be emotional, where they just tear you down, tell you you're no good, don't nobody want you, or economic, they just won't provide finances for you. So you figure like, since I can't take care of myself and I don't have any money, I'm going to stay in this situation. That's not true. You can get out still. Either once you're out, they'll be stalking you. He did that. He followed me on my job and made me go with him.
This issue is real, and we have to understand the severity of and what it could look like. Domestic violence can take form in many, many ways, whether it's you don't have access to your finances, you don't have access to your family members. This is an important story, and Sister Pat Tatum has shared as a survivor of what she has done, what she would do, and giving us techniques and tips to help those loved ones who may be experiencing domestic violence. Thank you, Sister Pat.
Thank you.
As you can see, the issue of domestic violence hits all of us. If it doesn't hit us directly by our own experience, it hits us by knowing a survivor or being connected to a family member or a friend. Ladies and gentlemen, this topic is serious. It's serious because it affects millions of individuals directly and indirectly. Are you ever in need of help? Remember that 1-800 number, 1-800-799-7233. That is a domestic violence hotline. 24/7, any time of the day, you can get help. If you're not able to get to a phone, you're somewhere in an environment where your voice cannot be heard, you can always send a text. You can text the word START to 88788. Let me say that in another way. You can send the word START to a number, and the number is 88788. The word START is a way to begin to get help if you find yourself or someone you love in a domestic violence situation. We know that the numbers in our country say that 1 in 3 women and 1 in 4 men are involved in physically abusive relationships. These numbers are dissettling, and it causes me to want to do more, to have more stories of survivors who have turned around to get help, who have looked next to them to find ways to get support, and that's us. Thank you, First Metropolitan Church, for an opportunity to share a little bit more about a topic that touches us all.